Okay, I've got
Dennis, my
9.
friend.
I've got 9 o'clock. We'll call the December 3rd, 2019 Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Move on to the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda this morning.
I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Okay,
We probably need to recess
Yep.
the board meeting.
okay, we have a motion to recess the
So
board.
moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are recessed. We will call the Economic Development Authority meeting to order. Okay, we'll start out with the agenda review.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to this agenda this
I
morning.
would move the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Minutes of the October 8th meeting. Everyone looked at those?
Yes, I'll move the minutes of the October 8th meeting.
Second. Okay, any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Okay, the Minnesota City's participation program for homeownership. So,
Okay. So with this program, we've been doing it the last 3 years, and I think during the recession with the housing crisis and everything, we'd stopped doing it for a number of years. But then a number of years prior to that, you guys were involved with that program before. And it's a way for cities throughout Minnesota can join together in a bonding authority with the state rather than having to do your own separate bonding. And it used to be that you had to pay an origination fee, but the state has already been able to compensate for that. And so this program doesn't cost the agency any money at all. So it's a really good deal for us to ensure we have affordable housing options for first-time home buyers. And they've really done a lot in the last few years. They bonded for this money, and we get allocated a certain amount per capita of the population. And they've even expanded it now where they've been able to pool enough money that they can expand our program. So we've been able to do like 300% of the loans that we would originally be able to do with our own individual money. So it's a really good opportunity for us to have some affordable housing dollars and some down payment dollars for families going through there. I know just in the last 3 years, there was 13 households in 2017, and it increased to 39 in 18, and now this year we've had 60. So we can see that it's really growing and helping families in our community. I think the more they know about it and the more banks that participate, we'll have more opportunities to really get this money out to families who need affordable housing. So we just kind of wanted to bring this to you. It doesn't cost us anything, again, and it's just a couple signatures, and every year we get to go into this bonding pool with the rest of the state.
okay, very good.
Do you have any questions on the program at all? I did bring some brochures if you guys would like to.
I don't have a question. I just think it's so important that first-time home buyer, and they say the elusive they that homes are getting more and more expensive. So trying to get into a home is challenging,
Right.
and finding one.
Right.
Yeah.
And this program then allows you to take it from the private market, so they still have choices in the housing that they're getting, so it's really nice. Or sometimes Habitat is a great program, but you have one house and this is the one you have to have, and then this just gives them opportunities. So we have we want to make sure we have all the opportunities for our families. I know USDA is a good opportunity as well. This just adds to our pool to give more opportunities for homeownership.
This is great.
Very good. Any other questions? Okay,
I'll move it.
okay, is there a second? Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Okay. Community Partners Research.
The next item is the housing study, and I know we had come to you earlier in the year, actually in the spring, and brought in a proposal where we were anticipating the cost of the housing study would be $22,000. And now when we've gotten the final information from them, it increased to $28,000 for Leeward County. So we wanted to bring that to you guys to see how you felt about that, if you wanted to go back and negotiate some additional pricing with them, or how you wanted to proceed. I know even with the city, we did have an increase. And we had talked to them back in September of 2018, and it's just that all the providers that do housing studies are really backlogged. We did also get a bid from Maxfield Research on this, and so this bid is still really comparable to their bid, but we still thought you'd want to give us some feedback on this, how you'd like to proceed, if you're comfortable with this or not. I know the cities, I think we were at about 15, and we went up to 19, and we did enter in an agreement with them to start doing this study. If you are interested in going forward with this contract, they would be starting it here in January, February, in the first quarter there, hopefully getting you a study. So I just kind of wanted to come back to you for your feedback.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
I think the study's important. Let us know what we need and
Yep, it is always good to,
Yeah.
I think.
We're really asking
that.
them to do a lot of community engagement with us and trying to get more input from what our community sees as needs, and trying to address that in the study as well. So
I think it also gives us data that we need in order to justify things,
I know
one way or
that
the other.
with the city, we're taking this study and we're going to be putting it together into a plan.
Yeah.
And so we'd certainly want to work with you to try to do the same sort of thing and put together a plan, and definitely use some community engagement efforts in that process as well.
Okay. Have a motion?
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Okay, got some other informational items for us?
We just wanted to let you know, Gateway, the notice came out at the end of November that they did not get funded for, Southwest did not get funded for the Gateway project. So we're still awaiting the state of Minnesota's discussion on why it was not chosen. The city does have concerns as to why it was, if it had something to do with the land and the high cost of the land due to the cleanup efforts. I know that there are multiple projects that usually go in each year, and I know they've always said we only get one project, so I don't know if that played a factor in it. I know we had Colonial Square, which is a subsidized building right now, and they went in for rehab dollars, so definitely preserving affordable housing in our community is a high priority too, and that was a very worthy cause too, so we're grateful that we did get that, but it still doesn't help with the Gateway site and everything, so.
And Colonial Square, they were going to go market rate, weren't they?
They could
had the
have if they
option
did
to
not.
go market rate, yeah, because of
Right.
the time frame.
So we definitely wanted to preserve those units and keep them in our community too, so.
I think it's important to have those units. I'm just really distressed that Gateway didn't get funded. I think it did so many good things for this community. The location with the Children's Museum, daycare, grocery store, high school, a walkable grade school, just a multitude of transit, that a lot of the other projects don't have those
Right.
functions. So I'm sad.
Yes, I think we all are.
Yeah.
So. The city is looking at going out for a new RFP, and I would think that they would be able to come back and apply again for that. I know there's a couple other projects they're very interested in that would be really beneficial for the community as well. So we have another opportunity to go around, but we really wanted to know why the state was, if it was something that was related to the city and the land, if it was something that we could address in another way, that we try to do that too. But we definitely think those projects were really valuable, and
Yeah.
so,
I'm curious also.
yeah.
Why? Yeah.
I think everybody is.
Yeah.
And then you had the Free Press doing their thing where the response was,
An
not again,
unscientific
yeah.
poll.
Yeah, real scientific
Yeah,
poll.
that's the
Well, they admit
frustrating
to that.
thing to me.
They admit to that, but yeah, I thought it was always a good fit for that property, but.
It seemed to have a lot of
It's
support.
so, yeah, like you said, there's so much competition that it just sometimes takes more time.
It does seem like we just get one in our community, so I don't know when we hit that point where we can get two, I'm not sure. And maybe that's part of it, we don't know for sure, but we're trying to find answers for that and see what they tell us.
The interesting thing was, nothing was funded in Southwest. Nothing. And there were 11 projects in Southeast. And we fall in the Southeast area. But yeah, I was surprised that nothing was funded in Southwest.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're kind of on the line, I think, aren't we?
we are on the line.
Yeah.
It's too bad we can't be a few miles over.
Well, nothing is the same as nothing, so.
The other thing we just wanted to let you know, we're still working on the repositioning of our public housing units, and we do have a contract with RECAP, which is one of the main ones that the state HUD office encouraged us to work with. And we were hoping we'd be coming to you today telling you that we've kind of got a rough idea of what our plan is. We do kind of, but I think the consultant is doing a number of these projects across the country, actually. And they're not being as responsive as we had hoped. So we're hoping this month now, we've kind of pretty much said you need to give us an answer because you've kind of held us out 2 months here already. And we haven't won a definite idea of the direction to go with our public housing. And then once we get their input, we will go to our HUD office, and our HUD office has a team too, so they will be able to evaluate it as well. So in addition to our consultant and HUD, we can definitely make a really good decision about the best way to proceed with the repositioning. So hopefully in the next month we'll come back to you and be able to give you more information.
Great. Where's RECAP from?
On the East Coast.
Okay, I was just curious, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, good. Anything else for us?
That's all I have.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here
Have a
today.
good day.
Very good.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. We will call the board meeting back to order, and we'll continue with finance. Lisa?
Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
I do have a couple items for the board today. The first one is electronic funds transfer authority. This is something according to Minnesota state statute that the board needs to annually designate the chief financial officer to make these electronic fund transfers.
Okay.
Any questions on it?
Nope. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
No, pretty straightforward.
Yep. There's no discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's
That was a
approved.
hard one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you. Start with the easy one.
Okay, the license center.
So the License Center is undergoing some changes. We're looking at efficiencies, especially with the new office setup. So instead of going to one main cash register through every transaction, we have gotten them each a cash drawer. So we actually need to increase our change fund in order to make this more successful. So I am requesting increasing the fund from $700 to $1,200.
I'll move approval.
Second,
Any discussion?
it only makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
Why wasn't it? Yeah, of course now it made it more, I don't know, logical or something to do it now, the way how it's different
Yep.
setup than before.
Anything for efficiency.
Yep. They've also gone to scanning in the paperwork, so we don't have to send as much paperwork to the state. So that's been a huge improvement also.
my.
That's
That's
great.
great.
Are you telling me the state's actually making things faster?
Well, they make you follow it up with a copy though.
We have seen improvements.
Good. That's good news. So, okay, I got a
No
motion.
sarcasm here.
Motion and a second on that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved.
Thank you.
Anything else for us, Lisa?
No, thank
It was
you.
wonderful to see you, Lisa.
You too.
Thank you. Come back and visit again.
I've heard really good things about your leadership in the License Center, so I thought I'd mention that.
Yes, we were very fortunate to get our administrator from Brown County.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit bad that, she came here.
Not that bad.
Yeah.
Don't,
But
they've gotten
it's-
some of our good people too, so.
We only steal the best.
We do. So things have been going very well there.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, move on to drainage. Greg and Ryan?
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I guess we'll start with, I'll be doing the liens, and then Ryan will take and talk about the ditch inspection reports. Every year, we approve the the next year's liens, so this will be liens for 2020. We had liens were put together and we had reviewed by the Ditch Advisory Committee. So we have the 1-year liens and then the 2-year liens. This will be 2 separate board actions.
Okay, so want to take the single-year levies to start out with?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I would just add that we had a relatively long meeting the other day, not compared to what we used to have.
Yeah.
But we went through all these line item one by one, Will and I, and discussed them, and we even took care of some of Mark's for him because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Mark's only down to 2 or 3 ditches, so. But we do go through them one by one. We talk about them with the staff, the administrators there, Michael's there, and line item one by one, go through them and discuss them and try to move them up, down, and so this list should be ready to go.
Did you take care of all the ditches for cleaning me too?
That's right.
Yeah, we did.
And our goal is to try to get all of them out of the negative.
Yep.
We get there, but then another one falls in, so we are diligently trying though.
There you go.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second on the single-year levies. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Single-year levies are approved. The multi-year.
I'll move the multi-year.
Okay, there's a second.
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, same thing. We went over those also. So, if there's no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Multi-year levies are approved. Okay, County Ditch 56. Inspectors report?
Yep, well, I have 3 inspection reports here, or repair reports. First is CD 56. We have possibly a couple thousand feet of tile that needs to be replaced. You can see in that repair report I have an estimate of $65,000 that can quickly go up or down depending on what we find in televising. I'm waiting more on that to firm up that number. 56, we'll move to 86, which is Beaufort area. That's just the general ditch cleaning. Estimated cost of $27,000 to $37,000, depending on who we can find. But it's kind of a specialized item there with the equipment they need, so they get a pretty good premium for what they do there. And the last one would be JTD 83, which is shared with Waseca. Again, just a tile replacement there with an estimated cost of around $16,000. That's about it.
Getting the contractors freeing up a little so we're getting some of this stuff scheduled, or?
I'm trying. I had actually a pretty good response. I sent out kind of a memo to everybody that I've worked with about a month and a half ago, and I actually got 7 responses. So at some point, I'm hoping to have as many as 9 contractors working for us.
Wow.
So it could be an interesting dance, but good. That means we'll get stuff done.
Wonderful.
That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But until they fully commit, it's all hearsay. So at this point, we still have some guys that are trying to do work, but I'm a little worried that the Mother Nature's gonna slam the door on us.
Moving in on it, so.
Yeah.
So, well, good. Thank you for that report.
I will move approval of the repairs.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are approved. Thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
Thank you.
You too.
Okay, move on to Public Works. Ryan?
Morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Ryan.
Morning, Ryan.
Good.
Great.
We have a handful of action items and then some informational items. Got a lot going on in Public Works for what should be a slow time of year. I don't know if there's really honestly such a thing at this point in time, but the first action item that we've got on your agenda for today is the intent to cost participate agreement between Blue Earth County and the City of Mankato. This is for County State Aid Highway 82, Victory Drive, the project that we scoped in the capital improvement plan. Would depart from or begin at the roundabout with Stadium Drive, Casas 60, Stadium Road, Casas 60, and carry on to the north to just south of the Hoffman Road intersection. Given the cost and complexity of the project, we wanted to stay out of the Hoffman signalized intersection, so We've got enough to do approximately the south half of the project, and given how much traffic Victory Drive carries, the detour is going to be very significant, so we want to be cognizant that when we upset the intersections of Main Street, also Balserzak and Hoffman, we want to do that tactfully. So with this project, we would upset and reconstruct the intersection with Balserzak Drive, and the city actually wants to extend Balserzak to the east to provide a new connection for their public works facility. So that would be included as part of this project. And that's how our cost breakout was determined effectively on centerline footage. And as you may recall with these types of agreements, this is really kind of an agreement in concept to cost share, and the final cost share percentage is based on actual contract quantities as it's designed in the plan set. So the quantities for the work are subdivided between county and city, and then the city would pay a prorated share of the total project development cost. So with that being said, I would request to entertain any questions and request approval of the intent to cost participate agreement.
So moved.
Yeah, I'll second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. Can you explain to me the Balserzak and the Public Works?
Right, so Balserzak currently only has a west leg that would go towards like MSU or I forget a lot of the college
Monks.
apartments, things like that.
Monks and Pole Road. Monks.
Balserzak is east-west.
Warren?
Yep,
Okay.
so Balserzak comes in, where the church is,
Yep.
and then, so just north of that intersection where it signalizes Balserzak. And then on the northeast corner of that intersection is the city public works facility,
Yeah.
the old MnDOT
Yeah, I'm just
buildings.
trying to figure out how they plan on.
So it would be an east extension of that leg that would come up and run along the south edge of the public works facility.
Oh, so it'll just be closer to the Public Works.
Right, and an east leg of that intersection would be constructed. Right now it's a T intersection.
I know.
Yep, and so it would be a four-way intersection. So it'd be an eastern leg that would carry onto the northeast, and then that would
Oh, so
connect
we'll
to a
go
city
all the
street
way
system.
across?
With the future project, yes,
Yeah.
it would go up and it
Okay.
would at least provide service to the city public works facility. And then eventually, as they would want to extend that and tie that into the city street system.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just trying to figure out what it looked like. Yeah.
Right. So adding an east leg on or leg onto the right-hand side.
You know, I think this shows another thing that the city of Mankato and Blue Earth County work together so much.
Correct.
And we do so much work together. People tend to like to show how much negatives there are, and they blow them up. But the amount that the city and the county work together is amazing. So good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. This only has to deal with the road, but there's always that talk of some kind of trail along there.
So the intent with this project, and we can certainly go into that, is once we get the intent to cost participate agreement in place, when we get the next step would be a design consultant, obviously, to begin an analysis. And as part of the city's work, if they want to assess it, they have to do a feasibility report. We also want to use the feasibility report to look at different alternatives for the road section. There may be a succinct possibility that this segment, at least from Stadium to Balserzak, could be a 3-lane segment instead of the existing 4-lane segment. Just given the traffic volume does drop off at Balserzak. So we want to take a look at that. What level of service does that provide? And as part of that, looking at that narrower section, that would also help us facilitate as we go to put this into a curb and gutter urban section. That would help us fit a trail and a sidewalk along the project. So yeah, that's definitely an emphasis point for the project, is to get a full north-south trail all the way from Stadium to the north.
That'd be great.
South 60.
That'd be good, yep.
I like trails and sidewalks.
Yeah.
I'm always a little concerned about narrowing a road when it's a road that really carries a lot of traffic.
Yep, and we certainly want to take a look at that. You know,
Yeah.
there's really only one access point on each side of the road, as it sits now.
Yeah.
You know, and with the way it's developed out, it may be feasible. So that's why we want to take a look at it in
Yeah.
the preliminary part of the design.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, discussion. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
All right, great. The second action item is the intent to, I haven't had my full thermos of coffee yet this morning. Number
This
2.
I understand.
I know, that's why I looked at Vince. Number 2 is resolution for a regional parks candidate. The Red Jacket Trail joint application. This is for the commission. the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission, as we had discussed previously, had reached out to ourselves and asked if we would consider putting in another application for regional parks candidacy. As they looked around the southern Minnesota, there weren't really any parks that were desirable, and they had seen quite a few candidates in Blue Earth County. After further discussion with them, Red Jacket Valley Park was a candidate that they liked the idea of because it met many of their criteria. Another one was the Red Jacket Trail, especially when it was coupled with the Minnesota River Trail operated by the city of Mankato. So we're working on a joint application for the Red Jacket and Minnesota River Trail. We think there's more viability in that one for future need, especially if it becomes eligible for those legacy dollars. I could certainly anticipate a future overlay or pavement rehabilitation on that trail being necessary, whereas Red Jacket Park, if we want to continue to have it be a rustic outdoor recreation area, that the legacy dollars being put to use is probably a little less likely. So I think that's a good candidate. It certainly has quite a bit of use, so I think we had a very good base application that was submitted in 2015. However, as we understood, we were, at the time, I guess, the application was sent kind of towards the wrong direction, or the miscategorized, so it should have been categorized elsewhere. And with that being said, if we categorize it correctly and update our application, we've got a lot of the content already there to utilize, so we're going to work together with the city on putting an application in. Now, one thing I do want to point out, and we've discussed it previously, that if the application is selected by the commission, we would be responsible to do a master plan for that specific park. And we have different alternatives, but I think the fastest way to get something done would be to probably bring a consultant in for that and split those costs with the city for a master plan just specifically for that trail project, not all of our parks. So we would keep the overall cost down.
I think it's,
I'll move it.
yep, second.
Okay.
Okay, any discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
So does this give us an opportunity for legacy dollars that we wouldn't have otherwise?
Correct. So if it's on the Parks of Regional Significance designation, then it becomes eligible for those dollars.
I just think it's such a great idea and such a great park.
I hear a lot of,
I kind of like that Red Jacket.
I hear a lot of compliments on it. It's, yeah.
Yep.
And with one county, one kind of done there to 90, that helps a bit. People are
Absolutely.
wanting to get there.
Yeah, we actually even got a compliment on the new trail, so that's always nice when you get people to actually go out of their way to give you a compliment on the project. So
Good for you.
Well, good. Okay, ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
all right. Next action item is consideration of final payment on State Aid Project 07599-61. This is the Lee Ray Township box culvert project. The final payment amount is $7,847.63. I would recommend approval of the final payment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
Okay.
I just love the name of the contractor, Dirt
Dirt
Merchant.
Out on 3rd Avenue.
Yep.
Yep.
The next final payment is for Project 41091 and Project CP 8109. This is our County Road 109 Basin Bituminous project from 2018. We had some kind of differences of opinion with the contractor, which is why this and the next final payment were delayed this long. However, we were able to resolve those and urge them to get these in prior to year end. So with that being said, the final payment amount on this contract is $81,406.78. I would recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I would think that would be an incentive to get it done.
I certainly think so.
Yeah, you know, when you see 81,000 instead of just like
Yeah.
4,000,
Yeah.
it's still a lot of money, but it's
Yeah.
81,000 you could.
Very good. So, okay, if there's no more discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
All right, and the last final payment is again Central Specialties. This is Project CP 8133 and others for our 2018 bituminous overlays. Final payment amount $94,968.55.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right,
Them done.
good deal. Get those off the books before year end. We'll be, we have a few that are lingering open. Some informational item updates. Our construction projects, as you know, winter is here and is,
Unfortunately.
yes, exactly. County State Highway 1 has been open to traffic. There are some punch list items remaining for spring of 2020. Pedestrian ramps, some seating, some curb and gutter and concrete panel repairs, things of that nature. Nothing terribly significant, but some items that do have yet to be resolved. The Rapidan Dam, the left abutment repairs, there's a photo circulating around. That work is effectively completed. They just need to put up some of the new railing and then they will be done. So that really turned out nice. And that's a very good repair of the dilapidated concrete that was there. And again, utilizing that remaining $250,000 of DNR dam safety money that was left over from the stabilization project.
Do we have any more work to be done on that yet, or?
On the dam.
Whatever.
I can jump into that now if you'd like, or
Let's keep it in order.
stay on the positive.
All right.
All right.
Sorry about that.
The Kern Bridge removal and salvage. The bridge southeast corner has been temporarily secured to an excavator, so they've actually attached it to the knuckle on the boom and set the bucket down to stabilize it so that if those abutment blocks become any more dislodged, it would at least reduce the risk of the bridge collapsing. They did do some of the clearing and grubbing. They're still pending final submittals for their PIC plan and some of the structural engineering items, and that has to be approved by our consultant engineer. So they're behind on that, and I think they're having a steep learning curve on the level of submittals and the level of detail that's necessary to ensure that it's done properly and safely. So
Who's our consulting engineer? I don't remember.
our consulting engineer, so is the one that is reviewing their consultants'
yep.
submittals. Ours is LHB out of Duluth, and the reason LHB was selected because they had done previous historical and structural assessments of the bridge, so they already had all the nuts and bolts figured out as far as the weights and the forces that are in the bridge.
Okay.
So,
Thanks.
yep. And they are actually, we did strongly recommend that they also consult with another consultant that we had worked with on the Dodd Ford Bridge, the structural engineer there. So he's at least advising them for their engineers who are maybe a little less experienced in this realm. So at least gives me a modicum of comfort that at least they've got somebody that knows how to do this type of work, that specializes in this type of work, I should say, offering them advice.
Yeah.
So the PIC date is to be determined.
Oh, that has to be, that's what I was wondering, okay.
I saw it online, the
Yeah.
thing holding it up.
Okay.
Or
Yes.
attaching it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we move into our planning projects updates. CASA 10 from the Blue Earth River to CASA 1. We're wrapping up. There's only a handful of right-of-way parcels remaining, I think 2 or 3. We plan to advertise and open bids in late January or early February. So that project, again, was delayed, but it's on track for 2020 construction, and we hope to get it out early for good bids. CASA 27 from 17 to 2. The 90% plans were submitted. We're reviewing those and routing those around our office, and we'll be submitting those to the state for approval. The critical path now is going to become permits and right-of-way as it typically becomes. There's a lot of parcels out there, and we're getting the right-of-way documents prepared so that Jack can start meeting with folks here within the next few weeks. And we're going to try to get 2 people working on right-of-way acquisition just to expedite that and get that out for probably late spring, early summer bid. That may, just because it's such a long project, some of it may spill into 2021 as well, but we'd like to get the lion's share done this year if feasible. And then we had added, as you may recall, the city of Good Thunder, CASA 1 from the west limits to Ewing Street. That was added as a late add to our CIP per request from the city because their water main is failing. So we are working on the design of that. The survey and the initial utility coordination work has been completed. The 60% plan should be coming this week for our review with general road and utility design information included. So that's moving right along, and we should be able to put that out to bid early again this spring or late winter to get that under underfoot for a contractor to begin on right away. CSAH 57 and Riverfront Drive roundabout interchange at US 14. We submitted the revised geometric layout to MnDOT's specialty office of the GDSU, that's their Geometric Design Support Unit. They're the ones that have to review and approve all of the geometrics associated with anything trunk highway at a certain level of operation. This fell under that category. It also requires bike and ped group comment and approvals. So we've been working through that process because they've had many recommendations that frankly we at a local level disagree with. It expands the scope of the project significantly, or it's just unnecessary. So we've been working through that process of trying to find a median that we can both be comfortable moving forward into detailed design with.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Chair? That interchange, I noticed they've had cones up for a while. Is that because the interchange is going to change, or were they just fixing something?
I think that would have been just for a repair. In fact, I believe that was for a utility installation out in the right of way.
Okay.
It was for a fiber optic communications line that was going to the gas company.
Okay, thank you.
So the year, is that next year's or
2021.
21.
Yeah. So as we work through this process, the goal would be to have biddable documents ready by January of 2021 and have it out to bid relatively early.
Is that gonna be a one-year project?
That's our objective. So right now the other thing we're working on is we're looking at detour plans. So what we'd like to do is approach it as a full closure, begin right away in the spring, close it, put up detours, and allow the contractor this summer to get it completed with the objective of trying to have it done by, knock on wood, hopefully August, similar to some of our other roundabout projects.
Yeah.
Again, that's contingent on many things, but that's our objective versus trying to piecemeal and do all of this phasing. I think a hard closure, just rip the Band-Aid off and get it done is a better approach.
And I appreciate that, and it certainly is gonna get done faster, but those businesses are gonna suffer drastically the year that's shut down.
So where would you shut it down from?
So, well, it would really be, the hard closure would be just at the edges of the project limits, but the interchange itself would be closed. So that would require like the gas station and some of those businesses there, would have to rely on traffic coming up and through.
From Front Street?
Correct.
Yeah,
from
they
the
have to
side
come
streets.
from-
Yes. Riverfront would be open to local traffic up to that point, but when you got there would be hard closure for the actual project itself. And obviously there are side streets that would help dissipate some of that. So we are working through, utilizing for different directions, how you may provide alternative detours. So that's what we're looking at. And I can bring more information as we get a better grasp on that.
Yeah, because, and it happens every time you have a major construction like it happened on Madison Avenue, but you always have businesses that are suffering anyway, and all of a sudden you're taking all the traffic away and they have to shut down. It happened with our roundabouts that we put up. So all we can do is the best, we can. And I appreciate the work you're putting into this.
Thank you. Yeah, and one of the struggles with roundabouts is there's no easy way to really build them in halves effectively and get traffic through them. So similar to where you could build a 4-lane road in halves and have, congested traffic passing, that doesn't work for roundabouts.
Yep.
CSAH 41 bridge replacement project, the project memorandum, which is an important document for the federal aid, has been submitted. And I think we had discussed the archaeological phase 2 investigation. Should be underway this week. Should be completed this week prior to winter freeze up. Depending on what items may or may not be found, obviously that'll provide direction for what we have to do in the spring for mitigation. But that's being coordinated through MnDOT's Cultural Resources Office, who's actually doing the phase 2 investigation for the county, so we don't have to incur that cost. So that's been helpful, other than how long it was delayed. So we have had conversations with them that their intent is not to hold up the project, so we're looking at different ways that we would mitigate if needed, and that gives us the winter to work through that. 1 from 9 to 90, the SHPO finally responded to the Corps' no adverse effects determination letter, and they had disagreed with the Corps' assessment, so now those two agencies have to work it out together. So in the never-ending saga, we still don't have closure.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely frustrated with the process as a whole. The Corps is the permitting agency, so I hope to an extent they'll say thanks, but this is what it is. We've had our own historians, et cetera, look at it. But extremely frustrating that,
We have no idea how long that'll actually take.
yeah, we're still remaining hopeful that we can get that, surcharge work completed. Worst case, we may have to look at an alternative where we build everything else except for that piece and tie into it in the future, but I really hate to do that.
Wow.
We lost 2 construction seasons now.
Yep.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about 82 Victory Drive. Next step now after the agreement is signed by the county and city will be for us to procure a consultant. So I'll probably be bringing proposals forward to you for consideration in January or February for the consultant contract to begin that design. Miscellaneous items. Rappahannock Dam apron damages. You asked. I met along with staff with FEMA to discuss the application for federal funds to repair the downstream apron, the damages that occurred this spring of 2019. Again, that was the second largest flood of record passing through the dam, and it did significant damage to the apron. We think it's a combination of obviously the flow over the top providing upward force, as it transitions from a laminar flow to a turbulent flow, creates a lift. In addition to that, we think there's also some underlying hydrostatic pressure that's pushing up on that apron. So with we had previously relied on just the weight of 2 feet to 3 feet thick of concrete tied together and tied into the edges to hold it down. That was obviously insufficient with the flows. So one thing we're looking at, the damage limits, we estimated them based on the topographic survey, that the apron was damaged about 1,300 square yards. So pretty significant portion of the apron. Of that 1,300 square yards, about 250 of it, we surveyed a 10-foot deep scour hole. So once the apron peeled out, it started, there's large riprap boulders underneath that were used as fill. It even peeled those out and washed them downstream.
Oh my gosh.
So while it doesn't pose an immediate dam safety threat, it certainly could propagate and become a safety issue down the road. So that's why we're working to address it now. With that being said, we are applying for about $1.5 to $2 million for apron repairs to return it to pre-existing condition. We're also going to include mitigation measures that are above and beyond that as an additional funding request of about $1 million to try to do some grouted rock anchors. So we'd actually drill down 40 feet or so into the ground on about a 15-foot grid with a grouted tension cable that would actually try to nail it down to the ground and hold it down. Extremely frustrating, I agree, and but I with the condition of the apron and the availability of the FEMA money, I want to right now try to go after it to make those repairs, to do whatever measures we can to prolong the longevity of the dam.
Good.
So,
Have we got a plan for the gates? Had some work needed to be done on those?
So the operator, Eagle Creek Renewable Energy, has a contractor on board to make those repairs.
Okay.
The gate damages and some of the other damages that happened upstream were covered by their insurance, because that's one of the items that is critical to their hydroelectric energy production. The downstream apron really is not. The other item that we did notice during the survey was there was actually a flow separator wall at the east side or the right side of the powerhouse that separated the flow from the spillway and the flow coming out of the powerhouse. That was completely gone. So that's why we're also including that for the repairs in our scope. So my intent is we're working on finalizing a cost estimate. I have the body of the remainder of the document. My goal is to get a draft of the submittal to FEMA with all the attachments documenting the damages, showing the proposed repairs. I'd like to get that to FEMA yet this week, prior to AMC and some other things happening here in December, so that they have time to review it and provide feedback.
Yeah. Good.
Thanks. Any questions for Ryan on that?
It's wonderful having a dam.
I think that's about the 3rd time in my tenure that we've repaired that.
Yep. Yeah, this is the 3rd time I've been, if we go in, this will be the 3rd repair project I've done, and there were 3 to 4 before I was here.
Yeah.
So.
Is it always the same spot? Or-
This is very much in the same area as the previous damages to the apron, yes. So,
Okay.
and we did a very robust repair the last time around.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly thought the contractor did a very good job, but those upward forces from the seepage underneath are unfathomable.
We don't have somebody like XL or somebody that wants to come and buy that from us?
I wish.
No, that's that was,
It's
gone by.
I know.
I'll do some looking.
Yep.
Just have to
Speaking of-
praise our
speaking-
past commissioners for purchasing this.
Is there a realtor that handles
For sale by owner.
I'll put a sign on it. We'll see. Speaking of Excel, I've been meeting and discussing with Excel Energy their Huntley to Wilmer transmission line project. We have provided a letter to them and the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission expressing concerns about driveway and additional alterations as the result of the project. Impacts of seasonal load restrictions and their observance of those, utility encroachment permits that will be necessary, their oversized and overweight permits that will be necessary. And ideally, we'll roll a lot of that into a road use agreement that would also assess a fee structure for damages to the road and provide us with a monetary mechanism to make repairs to the roads, or perhaps even be proactive to do some work on the major haul roads before they are damaged from all of the work. The even equivalent or greater concern that I have is impacts to the existing roads where they parallel our road. So I actually got a point file from our GIS department of all of the pole locations and reviewed how close they were in proximity to our roads. On CASA 11 and CASA 13, there are some critical impacts where effectively the center of the pole will be 60 feet from the edge of our right-of-way, which is a problem because both of those roads are on our capital improvement plan for reconstruction. And on 13, there's a long drainage ditch that parallels the road on the other side, so we're pinched in. So as we go to widen and improve those roads for farm to market, that creates a significant hardship when each of those poles are very, very expensive to replace. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I actually am meeting with them at noon today to follow up on my letter
With Excel?
with
or-
Excel's project management team. So we'll see where that goes, and I'll keep you in the loop on that. But we're trying to at least make a little bit of noise. You know, they have the right to put the poles from the PUC where they see fit, but trying to coordinate that if they could get them out 75 feet or farther, that would really help us, that they're not going to be a hindrance.
In our conditional use, in our ordinances, don't we have 150 or something?
We have
from
a
the center?
130-foot setback, but it's
Yep.
for 69 kilovolts or less transmission poles, and this is a 345 kilovolt. And I assume that the precedent of 69 was set because I assume anything above that is regulated by the PUC, which supersedes our ordinances.
Authority. Is the PUC still engaged in this?
Yes, I did
Okay.
copy their manager for this project on my letter.
Okay. I didn't know, since I think they approved it.
The
Or
route
haven't
has
they
been
finally approved it yet?
Yes, the route has been approved.
Yeah, so I didn't know if they were still engaged or not.
They're just,
When is 13 scheduled on our capital?
I've got that in the CIP. I think I put that out in like 2022 or 2023. I'll double check that. Which is actually the next item on my list is we are working on updating the capital improvement plan and looking at having a public open house meeting probably early January or February, and then bringing that for the board after the public open house meeting to a work session for additional comment, and then hopefully finalizing it in the spring and getting it approved.
I've gotten a call from one of the landowners on 13 out there, said that
Okay.
Excel's been negotiating, but they
Yes.
say they won't give what's the word they used, an estimate or an offer until they find out till they settle with us on the placement of the poles.
Oh, that's good.
That is good for us.
So
yes.
I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, the landowners want to know, how far out.
Yep.
So-
And I certainly understand they don't want
Yeah.
to be 130 feet out because
Right.
it's more land that they have to acquire, and we don't have any semblance of design done yet, but we know in general, on past projects, we need at least 60 feet from center line to be clear
Yeah.
for our project, and that's why I try to say at least minimum of 75 would give us some wiggle room.
Yeah.
on a
Especially when you're up
straight
against
road.
a ditch and some other factors.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I'll pass that landowner's number on to you, and maybe
Sure.
you can visit with him
Sure.
a little bit. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, and with that ends my report, unless there's any additional questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Just a comment, I appreciate you being proactive on this,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
We actually just, at our Rural Minnesota Energy Board meeting last Monday, we actually had a discussion where the other members, mostly county commissioners, elected
Okay.
officials, praised you for bringing that up.
Okay, well,
So it's
good.
a topic that's being talked about around the
And
state.
the Region 8 Development Commission hosted a lot of county engineers and county planners a few weeks ago, so we got together and talked about these wind projects and these massive transmission lines. And I think there may be an effort to try to put together kind of a universal agreement that protects the county's interest that they can
Yep.
use when negotiating with these entities.
Is
Okay.
8 in Slayton?
Pardon?
Where's Region 8?
Region 8,
Oh, it doesn't matter.
I believe it is.
Southwest, I think it's Slayton, yeah.
Yep.
I was just trying to get
I think they're
they're in Slayton.
utility and energy, they have a bigger
Yeah.
area that they cover and help service. Annette Fiedler, I think is her name. that
Yeah,
had
yeah, she's
led
been
the
there a
meeting.
while.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's retiring at the end of this year, actually.
Oh,
Very good.
All right,
Thank you,
have
Ryan.
a great rest of the day.
Thanks, Ryan.
Could we take a short break? I just want to pass some information on to Ryan before he leaves. Okay, we'll get back at it. County Attorney's update.
Morning, Pat.
morning, Pat.
Morning, Pat.
Again, the numbers speak for themselves, but this report was prepared as of about noon on the 22nd, and within that, since that time frame, just a couple of little statistics for you. There's been over 40 complaints, formal complaints that have been prepared since that time. Things just kind of, the ebbs and flows. We've had a couple more appeals come in, a couple more termination of parental rights, and those are cases that are very time consuming. Some of the numbers still are up, some of the numbers are down, but as the ebb and flow goes, we have been very busy. So unless you have any specific, I'm happy to ask any specific questions, but I just wanted to provide you with that tidbit of information that we have so far.
Okay, any questions for Pat?
Mr. Chair, I see misdemeanors are way up. Are those primarily person?
Probably, typically not.
Okay. Would that be,
Let me just take a quick peek
it's
here.
on 43. How's that?
I'm going the wrong way.
It just looked like a big jump. And I was just kind of curious what type of, is it speeding or is it, I just
Oh,
don't know.
the juvenile, on the juvenile,
Yeah,
okay, I was
yeah,
looking at
yeah.
the adults.
No, no, juvenile.
No, it's just that, when there's more activity, when there's more officers out on the street doing things, I think that we have, for years, experienced underreported and underreporting and whatnot. So, and I've said for quite some time that so goes the increase in law enforcement, so goes our numbers. It's not that they're out there doing things, and actually we just had a meeting last week with Josh and John and Robin talking about ways to increase the diversion program for the juveniles in those cases.
Good.
So, yes, and you will see that the person crimes have been up substantially.
Yeah, I saw that.
That
Yeah.
typically those are the felony filings, those are not the misdemeanor filings. And so when you have, the graph gets a little bit skewed when you go from 50 filings last year compared to 70-some filings so far this year. We have experienced nationally a downward trend in crimes overall, but we have seen, just like they have nationally, an increase in the more serious person offenses. So that's what that is a little bit attributable to.
Okay. What normally would be a misdemeanor? I just don't know.
A misdemeanor, it could be a misdemeanor assault, disorderly conduct, domestic assault, could be a driving offense, driving after revocation, careless driving, those types of things. Whereas many over the years, the reason that the misdemeanors have gone down in the adult side of the house, so to speak, is that the courts have made misdemeanors, many misdemeanors payables and put on a payable list. So whereas a few years ago, if you were given a ticket for careless driving, that was a mandatory court appearance. Now it's a fine. You can just pay your fine and walk away. Whereas with juvenile filings, they're mandatory court appearances. There's certain payables, and the vast majority of those they're not the same payables for adults as they are for juveniles. There's very limited payables for juveniles compared to the adults. So therefore, we end up having more court hearings.
Thank you, I was just curious because
Sure.
there was a big jump there.
You know, and you'll see at some point in time, probably in the year-end report, you know, we're going to have a little bit of a spike in the truancies as well, and that's simply because, again, the school districts are responding. We've got the courts on board. One judge, Judge Anderson, again, has agreed to hold all the truancies. We work with probation, community corrections, and the school districts to increase the amount of time and effort that we're putting into keeping them out of court through this student defendant attendance review team. But so now if they get into court, the judges know that they've had their at least 3 bites at the apple, and we're dedicating more resources to those types of cases.
Okay. How many days do you miss and be truant, or portions?
7.
7, okay.
Okay, any
Thank
other
you.
questions for Pat?
You're welcome. Anything? Questions, concerns, comments?
Good.
Okay.
Thank you
Good
for your
report.
report.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Pat. Okay, we'll move on to administrative services. Bob?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, the first item is the county board minutes for November 19th.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They approved?
Next would be the bills for the 2 weeks indicated.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, any discussion?
Let's see, I had a couple of them here, but I can't. United Builders of Blue Earth, $216,000.
They were the contractor working on the St. Clair shop.
Okay. And let me see, Egan, second week, Egan Company for $145,000.
They are the electrician working on the government center project.
Okay. I think the last one I had is Faribault and Martin County HS High School, is that right?
Human Services.
Human Services for 100. Why or is that just?
That is part of the Adult Mental Health Initiative, the South Central Community-Based Initiative. So we're the fiscal agent for a 10-county region, and so
Got it.
some of those funds being transferred
That's
out there.
all, only questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, good. Any other questions, Bob?
Okay.
Okay. No other questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Bills are approved.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 13 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. Just have informational items for the board today. We have filled the Human Resources Technician, the Compensation and Benefits position in our Human Resources Department. We've also filled a legal assistant in the Office of the County Attorney. We have, I have granted a temporary probation officer in the Community Corrections Department to fill a position that has been vacated due to a long-term education leave of absence. And so the workload there has been challenging, and so we've done this temporary probation officer until that leave of absence is scheduled to end next August. Then we had a resignation of a financial assistance specialist in the Human Services Department, so we've initiated recruitment to refill that position. Are there any questions from the board on the Human Resources agenda?
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Item number 14 in your packet then is the 2020 on-sale liquor licenses, recommending approval of 5 liquor licenses, one for Indian Island Winery, Morgan Creek Vineyard, Mount Cato, Terrace View Golf Course, and Windmill down in Mapleton. These have been reviewed by the sheriff and the county attorney, and so recommending approval.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Why on Indian Island Winery and Morgan Creek is it beer only?
The wine is not subject to our liquor licensing requirements, and so Beer options were added to those facilities, and those do go through our licensing process.
I didn't realize that.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They're approved.
Item number 15 in your packet then is recommendation to approve for reappointment a couple of individuals to our recycling committee. Sorry about that. So Jane Holla and Cheryl Krober are both individuals that currently sit on that committee and have indicated a desire for reappointment.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They're approved.
Item number 16 in the packet then is a recommendation for approval of a tobacco-free grounds policy. You will recall that the Human Services Department and I had a discussion with the board at a work session earlier this year. And so the Human Services Department has been working on the policy that could be adopted by the board. It is included in your packet. And this policy would basically say, starting April 1st of 2020, that all county grounds and equipment, vehicles would be subject to this tobacco-free grounds policy. It certainly is consistent with our public health goals of trying to improve health of the community as well as our staff. We will provide quit smoking and quit tobacco use resources to our staff. So we want to get this policy out there for people to see and understand, and it will apply to our staff as well as the public, but we want that time to be able to use to do some education and get those resources available to people.
I'll move to approve.
Second. Okay, any discussion?
I've read through the whole thing, and the only thing I just want to make sure is, how does this affect our parks?
So we have made some exceptions for the parks in terms of the campers in the park. So at the individual campsites, there will be tobacco use allowed.
Okay, anything, otherwise the parks are gonna be like Red Jacket Trail Park is gonna be smoke-free.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
I'll look to Kristen and Amy maybe to clarify that.
The only exceptions the park board recommended were individual campsites, open water, and within private vehicles on parks property. But
Okay.
otherwise, they were in favor of making.
Do we need her on a mic?
So
We
you
need you on a mic.
there.
Yeah.
So the Parks Board recommended exceptions. They actually were really in favor of having primarily smoke-free parks or tobacco-free parks, but they recommended exceptions for campsites, for people out on open water, and within private vehicles on park property.
But walking the trails, they can't smoke.
Correct.
Okay.
All right,
I think the discussion on that, just to add some comments, was people are out walking and hiking. They're probably not out there to smoke in the first place. So,
Somebody might be.
yeah. That was the discussion they had, though.
Yeah.
thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I don't have a question, but just a comment. You know, we spent quite a bit of time talking about this at more than one
Yeah.
work session, because we talked about it several months ago or a year ago, and then we talked about it again the other day. And these are always difficult decisions, you know, because you got to try to balance rights of everybody. And but I think at the end of the day, this is going to be good policy. I certainly support this moving forward, and I think it's going to have some challenges, but we'll just work through those like we do everything else. It is a challenge to us.
Good point. Good point. Okay, anything else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 17 in your packet is a memo and a document related to County Ditch 28 and a mediated settlement recommendation for your consideration today. Last week, no, 2 weeks ago, November 21st, there was a mediation session conducted up in Minneapolis. Chair Purvis, Commissioner Brunder, myself, and an attorney from Rinke Noonan were at the mediation session where we mediated a potential settlement with Granite RE, who was the performance bond carrier for Vortex, the contractor originally hired for County Ditch 28. The settlement that was reached at that meeting is for $750,000. We'd originally requested $1.3 million of coverage from the performance bond. As the negotiation proceeded, we recognized that there were some elements that probably suggested that we wouldn't get that full $1.3 million, but you know, if you kind of just do the simple math of what's halfway, 650,000 would have been the midpoint. We ended up a little bit higher than that. We believe at the end of the day, with the project the way it was completed, there is more concrete pipe in that ditch system now, which is a more expensive product. So they did get a more expensive product in the ground and should last a long time for those property owners. And so we felt that the way the math sort of shook out, it became a relatively decent settlement from our perspective. And so the folks at the table agreed to it and said we would bring it back for the full board's consideration here today. I can add more if you would like, but at this point I guess I'd throw it back to you in terms of any questions you might have.
I'll move approval.
Second it.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, no discussion, just some comments. Bob summarized it very well. We went into one other was that a mediation with the federal court judge?
There's a settlement agreement process through the federal magistrate, but
we tried that one first. We got nowhere. We sat up in St. Paul all day, got nowhere. So our expectations were relatively low, I think, when we went into this negotiations. We were there all day. It was a very taxing process. I think we did negotiate a good number. It is unfortunate what happened with the whole entire project, but at the end of the day, this is probably all that was on the table, and it saves us 2 or 3 years of litigation, more bills, more uncertainty, just to put it behind us. So I certainly will support this today.
And that's, yeah, I think that's about as best you can get under all the circumstances and all that. Yeah, like I said, trying to prolong, I don't believe it do any better.
It was a compromise.
Yep.
It worked.
And I appreciate your work on this, Will and Kip and Bob.
Yep.
All your work on it.
Yeah.
Well, it takes hours of work. I mean, the two of you and Bob, you know, took a lot of your own time to work this out. And this is, you know, it's not so much for the county, it's for the landowners.
It is just on behalf of the landowners.
And so we're fighting for the landowners for Blue Earth County, and I really appreciate the time you two spent.
Very good, thank you. Any other thoughts or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll move on to commissioners' reports on committees. Anybody want to volunteer to start?
I can start, Mr. Chair. My report's relatively short.
Perfect, go ahead.
After our last board meeting, we had our drainage assessments, which we already talked about for a few minutes earlier today and got them approved. We had the CAP program that we all came and presented at and had some questions and got to do the graduation, which was always exciting and nice to see the enthusiasm of the employees afterwards. And it was also very nice to sit with lunch and hear their feedback on how they enjoyed the program. We already talked about the mediation that we were at. And that same afternoon after we got back from mediation, Will and I got back in time for the extension committee meeting that evening here at the courthouse. And we re-elected myself as the chair and Will as the vice chair after a drooling campaign. And we
Yeah, it was
got,
one of the very first meetings we actually wore a suit and tie to. So.
and we also got a new director, Craig, is going to be down here representing this area. He's taken Kaya's place. So he came to the meeting, introduced himself, and had a nice visit with him. And we got a couple more members that decided to stay on for another term to help keep that committee going. So, and then last week there was a couple of meetings that I had on Wednesday, but they were canceled due to weather. Brings me to today, Mr. Chair.
Good. Thank you, Kip. Colleen?
On the 19th, I went to a meeting at the lower campus on Front Street from Mankato State about being a failure at entrepreneurship. And, you know, you have to usually try 4 or 5 times before you're successful. And so it was people talking about where they failed and in, you know, small business. And it was fascinating. It was for students and community members. It was very, very interesting. GAP graduation, I had Southwest Minnesota Housing Partnership later on the 20th. On the 22nd, MSSA, Mark and I were both there, the 10 counties, and they said it was the largest group they'd had previously. Health and Human Services was supposed to come, but they had lots going on and didn't make it. But our legislators were there, and so it was a good meeting. Also got the opportunity to talk to them about DHS and their proposal to have counties pay for things that DHS made a mistake on. So that's something that we had a long discussion on personally with our legislators. I had the Regional Economic Development Group, which is with McKnight and Blandon, and it is all about aging, our aging population in Minnesota. Some really just kind of interesting statistics. 91% of caregiving is done by a friend or a family in this state.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
One person in long-term care needs 6 employees or people. So that makes sense when you think about it, but I guess I hadn't thought about it. A year in a nursing home is about $108,000. That's the cost. And it's really hard to get employees because the pay is so low. You can work at McDonald's and make more money.
And it's not as, it's a little bit.
It's a lot tougher.
But it's a lot tougher.
A lot tougher.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So then we had a panel later on during the day, and Liz Ullman was there from Dotson Companies talking about, and this whole panel talked about how do we engage our people who are older to continue in the workforce, and how flexible can we be? And she talked about, you know, part-time work, and theirs is a tough job, and some people as you age can't do that job anymore. So they've looked at different ways to deal with that with robotics and changing the way they do business. So she did a really nice job, and it was really nice to have her talk about Blue Earth County and Mankato and what the different things that are going on in industry to address that workforce shortage and keep people engaged. So it was a really good meeting. Also, yesterday I had a meeting with the NACO, or AMC, Environment and Natural Resources Committee, as to the upcoming platform agendas. It's primarily on ditches. I don't have any ditches. So that is the end of my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Colleen. Vance?
Well, I got a short one. Of course, our last board meeting was November 19th. On the 20th, we had our CAP graduation that's been talked about. On the 21st, I had a TDS meeting. On the 22nd, I had a Transportation Alliance stakeholders meeting up in the cities. Really going over on how we can talk to legislators and about the needs for transportation and how we need some funding increases and how we can actually get it passed with the House and the Senate. On the 26th, I had an airport commission, and of course then we had Thanksgiving, and I didn't have anything else.
Very
Good for
good.
you.
Thank you. Mark?
Okay, after that Tuesday, the board meeting, I went to the MPCA at our county library. The MPCA came down, kind of the governor's initiative on the environmental standards, for carbon-free cars to, with the feds talking about lowering it. They want to keep the mileage standards where they were at, what the manufacturers were going for anyway. So it was a hearing just with the PCA employees on what people thought about carbon-free cars and what the should be for the miles per hour or mileage. That was kind of interesting, and that's the governor's initiative. And Mankato was one of the few. Was it 6 places that they went? Then Wednesday we did have our CAP graduation. I think it was Wednesday, right? Then they had their wellness, our Blue Earth County, the wellness, the SHIP program that I'm on that, and that was met with Christine Frederick, and that was on that day. Then we had Thursday had the Minnesota Valley, our MVAG, the small governments, county, or city governments of the area, and that was at the Happy Chef, and that was kind of a best practices going through what each community, what they're doing and how they're governing. And then did have a Partners for Affordable Housing meeting on the Thursday. Keep talking about more fundraisers. As always. Then Friday, yes, Colleen, I was at the MSSA breakfast. That's always interesting. Unfortunately, I had to go a little early, but I think it kind of was going a little long with some people, and then Colleen was short and sweet and actually did a very good job, because before I left, she was, that's why I waited for her. I was way on the other side, but she did compliment and thank our employees of the social services and the human services area, and it was very nice, because that's, they were wondering if we had to say or add, but I thought that was appropriate.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, it was good. And so when I left, Jack and all these others I told them, they said, what do you want? What should we say or something? I said, just follow Colleen's lead.
They didn't. It was a little longer.
Yeah, they could have been short, yeah. And let's see, that does conclude, because the next week was Thanksgiving.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, most of my stuff has been mentioned. Kip mentioned the ditch levy discussion after the board meeting. Then on the 20th, I had the CAP graduation. After that, I went to the Watonwan River Watershed Workshop over in St. James. Got to hear Sadish Gupta from the University of Minnesota speak. He's always very interesting. And after that, I came back, had a meeting with Senator Rosen with our water issue out in Lahilier there, and then we had the County Ditch 28 mediation and the extension meeting on the 21st. On the 25th, I was in Slayton for the Rural Minnesota Energy Board and the PACE meeting. And then yesterday I had the JD 36 landowners meeting here in courthouse, and the land rent seminar put on by the Extension Service. Didn't get to be there for all of it, but well attended. The room was full, and a lot of information presented by the Extension Service. So we're very fortunate to have them come down and do that seminar for us. And that's the end of my report. So is there anything else we need to consider?
That's all I have for you today, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I have a motion to recess.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're recessed. Thank you, everyone.